Hello everyone, it's Lennon, and I know that from the thumbnail you could kind of guess what we are talking about today. It's the Greenwood Tarot. Now, I had been seeing the Greenwood, I guess, on Instagram and on a couple of blogs that I had been reading lately, and I guess you could call them synchronistic feelings I was having because I had bought the WildWood a couple of years back because I thought that I would love it, and I ended up gifting it because it seemed too Celtic for me, those realistic images, and as a lover of shamanism, I really wanted to jive with the deck, but because of the realistic artwork, it really did seem more Celtic instead of just plain shamanistic, and there was something about the realism that after working with it, it did not end up jiving with me. So I ended up selling it and rehoming it. But then I don't know, once I kept seeing these images, I was like, wait a minute, this, like, the WildWood is based off this. I had inklings about that, and like I said, I really wanted to like the WildWood because I really like shamanistic decks. And I use shamanism a lot in my practice. I had decided to get on Cheska Potter's website. She has some websites that are specifically made for the Greenwood where you can download her PDF files of these images for free. And the way it comes in like a big sheet of all the images. And I just kind of snipped and sketched the images and plugged them into a printing company. I actually used makeplayingcards.com because I have already made a deck using that company before, and I like their flimsy cardstock. I'll put a link in the cards to that video if you want to go check that out. Now, we're not going to look at all the images, but I did want to start with the backs. The backs that Cheska Potter includes in the PDF looks absolutely nothing like the images on the front, like her art. It's like it almost looks like she just put some generic image on there and left it. And I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. And the wonderful thing about Make Playing Cards is you can get any image you want and put on the backings. You can even add text if you want, like say the Greenwood Tarot on the backs. For most tarot people, we know we're not gonna wanna do text on the back of the cards. But as a lover of art, I had a Wiki Commons image of this Cezanne painting. It's kind of like, the painting is way bigger than this, but I love the abstractness of his work, and I knew I wanted something abstract and something that would kind of link the green foresty feel. And when I saw this painting, I'll say, this image on my PC, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely an image that I can drive with. And I just shrunk the image and cropped it to where just this is available. And I don't use reversals in my with any of my decks, so I knew that I could do this. But we could even make this, zoom this way in and just have the green etches here, and we could kind of use it for reversals if we wanted, or flip, have this image right here and then the same mirrored on the bottom. You can do all kinds of things with Adobe and Printer Studio. So anyway, I wanted to look at just a few cards. The images, from where I downloaded them, the images seem to be for a mini deck, or maybe even not a full size. So maybe I didn't pay attention, but some of the images on the deck did end up grainy. I mean, this full is so beautiful. I don't want to call this abstract because that's not really what the art style for this deck is, but I did love it. Some of the images, like these, have lips at the top because I didn't plug the images in right. And this was really just going to be a fun test for me. I did making the deck. I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe there's a spot here for text, and there is a spot in Making Playing Cards that you can plug your own font in here. but I opted out of that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But on all the majors, there's like a white here for the titles. Some of these images just really spoke to me. I mean, as the, like, I'll say the, like the WildWood affiliate deck, I'll say, and how some of the images you can tell, especially like something like this, the image for in the WildWood was so realistic for this. I mean, you could really tell it was a siren with a mirror with the moon, but for some reason this artwork just called to me so much more than the realistic artwork. And when I draw and I paint, I tend to be more free like this, than more so than I am trying to achieve realism. That's never one of my my goals for art. I really try to use art in my practice, so there's never really any realism going on. But some of these are so similar to the WildWood. I love the Guardian here because the Guardian is sacred in shamanism, and I have a thing for labyrinths. So some of these images really work more so than the realistic WildWood did. They include this extra card, which is the Storyteller, which I'll end up leaving in the deck because that's my main thing, is storytelling. This is actually an extra lovers card that includes like 2 deer. I really would have liked this one more so than the humans, but it came out like this. It came out really, really grainy, and I just did not, I was like, oh. So I'll probably take that out. Now we're getting into the minors now, and they have a white edge here and a white edge here. That's like for the 4 of cups or whatever, however you would want to do it. And I think what I'm going to do is work with the deck for a little bit with just the titles. Like either maybe write them on here on a Sharpie or something. I don't know what I'll do. This artwork is just so fabulous, but I don't like the white. I just don't like that. Even with the titles, if I somehow put the titles on there with like it would be pretty with like a silver, I guess. But I don't think I could get by with this. I want just plain art. It would be even better if I had zoomed this in and maybe just put the titles on the actual art. Maybe that would have jived with me more, but I don't know. These things, they're not working for me. If I did a deck mod, which I'll probably end up doing, I'll probably work with this for a little bit with these half borders, I'll say. Maybe with the titles, maybe not, and see if it works. But I think my main goal with this is to make like a tarot/oracle deck with it, just the images. And I'll probably trim, I don't even know, let's see if I can. I tried to make these like, these images would be like the same, right? I'll just try to chop them off as best as I could, I guess. But then the majors only have the bottom, and the image goes all the way to the top. So I would have to cut some of these to make them all match. I would have to cut the tops, or top or bottom, and I have to figure it out for each card which top or bottom to cut to match the minor arcana. So that would be upsetting. Or I could just leave the bottoms on and try to just chop the tops off the majors. I mean, I could not imagine chopping off the top of that owl head. I just couldn't. Maybe the animals down below, but I feel like maybe they have some significance to the card, and then I would be ruining the deck. So, I don't know what I'll end up doing, but I think this goes here. So much for keeping this damn deck in order. There we go. So, I don't know what I'll do. Like I said, I'll probably end up working with it like it is and see if it works. But I really don't think it's going to. I mean, for images like this, it doesn't matter, does it? There's just something about the marks on how Cheskapadra did the art. Like, you really have to look for this deer under here hiding in this structure as the four of, you know, stones. And I don't know, I like having to look for the symbols in decks, and I've always resonated with this particular art style, even outside of tarot and oracle. So, and like I can see a figure here. I mean, there's so much in the deck, and the realism it just like gave me the answers. And I want to study and I want to work with a deck where it's not giving me the answers, where I have to kind of look through them myself. Look at that. It's almost like this is him and this is the underworld him, or the dark him. Anyway, I'm going off on tangents here. But the point is that I think that I'll like this more as an oracle deck. I would just have to really go card by card with the majors to figure out how it would be cut. Actually, love this card. I'm going to say something about this. I've seen a couple of walkthroughs of this deck, and everyone says that this is like, you know, the Star of David, but which it is in certain religions, but in shamanism, this is a symbol of spirit summoning. And I feel like that really, like having it in this card, which is the Six of Arrows, I believe. Yeah, Six of Arrows, so that would be the Six of Swords. And normally we see the people on the boat, right? But this is spirit communication, which really goes with swords communication, okay? So just makes sense. This is like the best card ever. I love this. As a mommy, I love that card. Like there's so many swirls. I mean, there's just so much to the deck. I'm going to leave some links to all the links below, like for Cheska's website and where you can obtain the card images. And I can even leave this Cezanne painting like in a Google Drive file for you to, you know, look at and see what this kind of an abstract style looks like. Or if you're just curious about what the actual painting looks like. I'll leave all the links below, and maybe I'll come back on here if I decide to mod this, like if I decide to cut all the stuff off. Really kind of scared. I don't want to cut any major symbols because the deck, it's so heavily symbolic. I don't want to cut anything that may be crucial to the card. Not that I couldn't like live with it otherwise, but I really don't want to cut something off that may hinder the reading. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm already so happy with what this is looking like, just the images. I'm like, I hated having these words on here. And I'm just slicing to slice at this point. I don't even... The majors, I'll show you what I did with the majors. It was kind of weird. I took like a piece of paper and measured this with it, exactly how I'm going to cut it right now, like what I'm doing now. And then I just put that like ruler size paper on each major arcana card and then marked on the card where I'm going to cut. That way I'll get the image that I actually want, instead of like the top of somebody's head cut off or an animal that I really kind of want. I'll knock off more of the top then if I want the bottom to kind of stand out. So I was able to really map out, that one's going to need extra, really map out what I wanted out of the cards. And I'm super happy with how small, and I'll corner around this too, and that'll be, I can take a tiny more sliver off of this one. And I've actually not modded a lot of decks this way. I've had to do some of my really like some of my oracle cards that I just could not shuffle. Now, I'm a riffler shuffler from hell, literally straight from hell. So I am so bad. Coming from a family that played a lot of cards, I've been riffle shuffling and bridge shuffling, however you want to call it, for like a long time. So that's just, when I have a deck of cards in my hand, that just seems to be what I want to do. And I gotta have a deck that stands up to that crap. So I have to cut them. Now, as my camera doesn't have time lapse, I will finish the deck and be back with you after it's done. Okay, and that is all she wrote. I mean, these, I don't know, for some reason the working with the deck with the words on them, or with the title card, like the titles on them, that was not working for me. And like I said before, I kind of measured the major arcanas after cutting these, because the images were all the same size on the minors, and it worked out so beautiful. Like, when I look at this deck, it reminds me a lot of the Thoth, because when I flip through my Thoth that I have that's trimmed, it's like looking through a stack of art, and that's what I wanted with this. Something to really use and play and study with. And I'm going to round the edges. I mean, God, it only took me a few minutes, and I mean, it's this size. That's not that bad. I'll shuffle it in a second, but I like to have my corners rounded before I do that. Just look, no obstruction, and that's what I like. Not with all decks. Some decks I like the borders and the titles, and like with the Rider-Waite. A lot of people like borderless Rider-Waite, but I really like the borders on the Rider-Waite. So anyway, I digress. I'm using this, which I got off Amazon. It was pretty inexpensive, and you just click it until and then the little, pieces come out here, and I just shake them over here, and then I take the whole reading cloth over to the trash can when I'm finished with the whole process. So I will round all of these and see you back in just a few minutes. Okay, now we have all these sprinkly things done. Look how beautiful this turned out with the edges. Oh, see, now it looks like complete, right? When the corners are rounded, it just looks complete. And I love it. It looks so good. Okay, I'm going to try to shuffle it, because I got the cards all out of whack anyway when I tried to... Uh-oh. Ooh, this is stiff. It is kind of stiff. But after a couple of bridges, that will be no more, probably. It's a pretty good size. It's probably smaller than I would have liked, but it does shuffle really well. Yeah. I love that this is really smooth. I did a great job, surprisingly. So I'm so happy with it. So happy with the trimmed version. Okay, and that is my review. And check out the links below if you want to check out some of these images for yourself and maybe make your own Greenwood Tarot. Come back and visit the channel. Much love.